All right, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Let's kick it off, Cam. Over to you.
Okay, excellent. All right, everyone, welcome to Revving Up Recruitment, the need for speed in IT recruiting. I really appreciate everyone's attendance to this webinar. We have a lot of great information that we're going to cover here in about the next 30 minutes. So I'm super excited for all the information that you guys pick up from this webinar and the different learnings and information that I have. And I look forward to, potentially working with everyone who's had the opportunity to learn something from this and see where our professional relationship can go. My name's Cal Price. I'm an enterprise account executive with Procom. Procom is one of the largest IT staffing organizations in North America. We have 17 offices across North America, as well as hundreds of dedicated remote employees that are able to service all of your IT needs. And my particular role here with Procom as a national enterprise executive is to work with clients in the Fortune 1000 space. So typically clients that have over 500 million in revenue, but I do also work with small and mid-sized organizations, and we have a tremendous retail organization that helps you at the local level. So whatever city that you are in, be sure to connect with us here at Procom, as we have the capabilities and the resources, as well as the subject matter expertise that will definitely help you fill your IT positions. And so one of the things that I've heard from my clients over the years is just the length of time that it takes to fill positions, particularly within IT, with the unemployment rate in IT being the lowest in the country right now at just under 2%. There's a lot more jobs than there are qualified candidates. And so just collecting this data and this information over the years has allowed me to put together some really good information for us today on the webinar, as well as showcase more of Procom's capabilities and hopefully spur some additional conversations with you guys as we move forward into 2023. So thanks again for everybody joining, and we'll go ahead and introduce the agenda on the next slide, please. So today, briefly, we're going to cover some best practices for deploying an agile talent acquisition program, helping you swiftly identify candidates, move them through the process, and be able to make a great hire, not just any hire, but a great hire within the first 10 days of that rec being open. We're also going to take a look at the 2023 recruitment landscape and what the current standing is, so you can get an idea of nationally what the statistics are in terms of open positions and the fill rate and the time to fill, as well as learn more about what the candidates are saying. It's very important to understand it is a candidates market right now with more jobs open than we do have qualified candidates available. And so you're going to learn a lot about what candidates are saying and what they're wanting. So that way you can be able to organize and build an efficient talent acquisition program that will be able to help you land the best talent. We're also going to talk about hiring mid to senior tech candidates within 10 days or less. Like I mentioned, these are your very seasoned and experienced people with the skill set and the knowledge base for the jobs of today, right? 21st century positions. These jobs didn't exist 20 years ago. So as we move forward into the automated economy and automation and artificial intelligence and things like that that are taking over, it's very important that we're able to identify and hire terrific mid and senior level tech candidates who can help your company through this automation transition that we're going through and prepare your organization for the 21st century economy. We're also going to touch on the benefits of skills-based hiring. So we're going to talk a lot about skills-based assessment testing, things like that, and how you can set yourself up with a tremendous screening process to be able to attract, select, and screen and retain those top candidates at the top of your recruitment funnel. And then we'll quickly wrap up with some Q&A, and I'll deliver some information on how we can stay in touch in the future, and hopefully I'll be able to consult you and your organization and partner with you and build out a tremendous talent acquisition program that will give you a leg up over your competition in your industry. So let's go ahead and get things started. Just for the sake of time, go ahead and on the next slide, please. We're going to go ahead and start off by talking about the best practices for deploying an agile talent acquisition program, not just any talent acquisition program, but an agile one. And as we move into the slides, you'll see the different core categories that I plan on covering with you and the information below that we're going to discuss. Understanding talent acquisition and the entire scope of it, it's definitely more than just recruiting. It's definitely more than just posting a job ad and hoping that the right candidate applies. We're going to talk about the benefits of that agile approach, which obviously would result in faster hiring, increased flexibility, things like that. We're going to touch on a little bit of the leveraging of the technology and automation that's out right now, Many of you on the webinar listening probably already utilize some of these tools, but we're going to talk about how you can get the best out of them. Building a strong talent pipeline, in particular, building a talent bench. Most companies don't have a talent bench that they can tap into when a position comes open. And so we're going to talk about how you can build that talent bench and really be invested into your internal roster as well as your external roster of candidates, because there are candidates out there right now who are interested in your company, they love your company brand, and they're just waiting for that phone call. Even if they haven't submitted an application, they're hoping that you found their LinkedIn profile or something like that on Dice or anything like that to be able to get that communication going and potentially work for your organization. And that's where you want to be. And then we're going to talk about the importance of collaborating and communicating with all stakeholders involved, including an outside staffing agency like myself here at Procom, and why that's important. And so what's really important to think about is, in today's rapidly changing job market, right? You know, we've seen a number of things change since 2020, since the pandemic, and now it's just becoming more crucial than ever for organizations to have a deep understanding of talent acquisition, as well as the significance of it. You know, with so many positions planning on being automated by 2030, the need for top qualified candidates is going to be more intense than ever, and it's going to be more competitive than ever. And so what's important for every company to understand is that people are your true competitive advantage. That's any company, whether you're working in banking, construction, consumer goods, oil and gas, energy. It's the people that are working in your organization that are going to be your true competitive advantage. And so we're going to talk about how the process of attracting, selecting, and retaining that top talent can greatly impact your organization's success, which obviously I'm equally invested in, especially if we partner together. I'm equally invested in the success of your hiring program. And so let's define what an agile talent acquisition program is and its relevance in today's job market, particularly in IT, right? You know, I'm in IT. I'm an IT executive here with Procom. We specialize in IT. We do handle professional roles, but IT is really where that struggle is at. And I know that you guys are experiencing that struggle too. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so an agile talent acquisition approach really emphasizes adaptability, speed, most importantly. And that's why we're talking about 10 days or less. It's all about speed, but flexibility in sourcing and hiring those candidates, right? Given the fast-paced nature of IT, you know, skills are always evolving rapidly. So it's essential for companies like yourself to be agile in your TA approach and your efforts to stay ahead of your competition. You know, being ahead of your competition is all about revenue, and the more revenue you make, the longer you stay in business, right? And that's what we all want to be a part of. And so adapting this agile approach offers numerous benefits. The first one is it's going to enable you to hire faster, allowing your company swiftly to be able to acquire the talent that you need to meet project deadlines or your own client demands. You'll be able to have that flexibility, and your organization will be able to adapt your workforce according to your changing business needs, right? You know, every company has their busy season, every company has their slow season, right? So having an agile talent acquisition approach to be able to meet those demands of the busy seasons and the slow seasons without any disruption in your workflow or any potential loss of your customers, that is the most important piece right there. And so this adaptability is going to be valuable pretty much in any industry, you know, whether the project scope or the requirements they change throughout. This dedicated process that you put in place will help you address all of these challenges. And so really that agile talent acquisition strategy is going to enhance your candidate experience because it focuses on building that relationship with the candidate, with your staffing partners, with your internal hiring managers, and be able to maintain effective communication throughout the recruitment process. And so one method is by establishing a talent bench program. Like I mentioned, as you see in the bullet point there for building a talent pipeline, talent pipelines are a key component in any bench program and have been proven to reduce time to hire as well as cost per hire significantly. I know we're all in the game of making money, but as a company, you got to save money too. So looking at your cost per hire and correlating it to your time per hire can really give you some insightful information on how you can help the company possibly mitigate some losses, or at the end of the day, just be able to save some additional funds that they can reinvest down the line. And so think about it in terms of like how a professional sports team uses the draft every year. And they're in baseball, you have your minor league system. And in the NFL and the NBA and professional sports, you have your free agency system, right? And that is a way to fill the urgent needs on their rosters, on their teams, right? So you can do the same thing too. Any company, whether it's small, mid-sized, Fortune 500 company, can benefit from having a strong talent bench. And so having this ability to tap into an already built pipeline of candidates who've already heard about your company, they know your company brand, they know exactly how awesome your organization is, and they're just waiting for that phone call, like I mentioned, is a top way to ensure that your time to fill is reduced as much as possible, and you get the candidate that you need and want rather than the candidate that you're settling for. And statistics back this up. Statistics show that companies with a talent pipeline or a talent bench can fill their positions 30% faster than those that don't, while also reducing the hiring cost by up to 50%. So this strategic approach ensures a steady flow of qualified candidates. It allows your company to react promptly when the new job opens up or a new opportunity arises, and be able to address these challenges proactively instead of reactively. Proactively, you've got someone they just put in notice, the job is now on the job board, you want that thing filled by the end of the 2 weeks that they gave notice, right? So having that talent bench is going to be critical in ensuring that you're filling that position by the time that person's notice period has ended. You've got somebody in that seat equally productive, if not better. And that's the name of the game. So when you're thinking about an efficient talent acquisition strategy in IT, it does boil down to the total cost of ownership for that employee, the cost of onboarding, the cost of technology that's used for that employee as in their daily job, like their laptop, their internet, maybe even a cell phone, things like that, home office setup. These are all costs of ownership, total cost of ownership of that employee, right? And so the way to cut those costs as quickly as possible is ensuring that you're able to fill your positions quickly, but also making sure you have the right person in the role. That way they're able to stand for a long time in that position, and you see the return on that investment in that employee rather than them turning over quickly, which could result to lots of losses to your bottom line. Another really good way is leveraging technology, right? You see the bullet point there in the middle of the little icon with the computer on there, leveraging technology and automation. These are terrific ways to not only mitigate costs, but to build that active pipeline that I mentioned. So there's various technologies out there, right? Vendor management systems, also known as VMSs, applicant tracking systems, also called ATSs, and then you have your managed service providers or MSPs. They all play a crucial role in managing and optimizing your recruitment workflow. Here at Procom, we offer a robust partnership with our sister company called FlexTrack, and they offer a game-changing VMS platform. FlexTrack has a long history in the professional contract and temporary resource space, and they've grown to be a leader in the vendor management systems and contingent workforce design industry. We also have a sister organization that we partner with quite frequently. It's a woman-owned MSP called HCM Works. It's another sister company of ours, and it's a diversity certified supplier. And HCM Work helps clients embrace the unique talent that will drive your business forward and help you manage the monetary spend within your own supplier networks, right? So again, looking to save costs, looking to save you time, and looking to bring you peace of mind, knowing that we're going to help you be able to return that investment on your employees back to your bottom line so you can reinvest those funds back in the company. And at the very least, for our talent acquisition leaders that are on the call right now, look really great to your superiors, right? Showing that you could fill positions quickly within a 10-day time frame and save the company money overall down the line at the end of the year in the bottom line. And so VMS platforms, they really do help organizations effectively manage your staffing agency partnerships, while ATS platforms that you see are more about streamlining your sourcing, right? You're getting applicants that are applying in, you're screening them, you're scheduling candidate interviews. There's still a lot of manual processes that have to do with an ATS, where a VMS system, you've got your staffing agency partnerships, they're managing all that for you, and it's a lot more efficient. So by embracing these methods, companies like yours can improve efficiency, reduce the manual effort, like I mentioned, and make data-driven decisions rather than emotional-driven decisions. And you could build that strong pipeline for your talent bench, like I mentioned, that when you have open positions come up, you can get in touch with these candidates really quickly, get them scheduled to interview really quickly, and move them along the process and reducing that time to fill. So when we think about time efficiency, right? Time to fill is a critical metric in today's hiring landscape. Every company at some point or at some way is being measured on their time to fill from a TA perspective. The longer a position remains vacant, the more it's going to cost your company in terms of lost productivity. Think about the project delays and potential revenue, right? Loss of customers, things like that, because you're unable to meet deadlines. And according to data that's out there, 43% of job openings are filled within the first 30 days. So that first month the job goes on the job board, 43% of those positions are filled. However, that stat also means 57% of job postings may be still active after a month. So when you're considering active candidates who need a job, maybe they just got laid off or something like that and they're applying, they're going to do that in the first 30 days of that job being open. Passive candidates, these are the candidates that are going to need to be hunted, right? Most of the time, the candidate that you want and need is going to be a passive candidate. They're working at their competitor. They're going to need some sort of investment or incentive to join your company, to leave their current role and then go to your organization. So if that role stays open for 2 to 3 months, you'll have to consider the entire cost here, especially outside of IT. If it's a sales role or a marketing role, consider the length of time that seat is open versus the missed sales revenue quota that is supposed to be being brought in by that salesperson, right? These are all things that you have to consider when it's about time to fill. So in order to engage with passive candidates effectively, companies like yours have to adopt a multifaceted approach. And I think we all know that, right? That's why we're on the webinar. So things like networking events, leveraging social media, as well as the most important piece, in my opinion, is employer branding. These are all powerful tools for attracting top talent. And in today's time, it's really vital for you to differentiate yourself from your competitors, showcasing what makes your organization special and why someone should come work for them, especially if they're a passive candidate. They're leaving one job to come to your company and work at that job. What is so special about that that's going to entice them to come, right? And so highlighting the unique aspects of your industry, of your company, having an industry-leading benefits package, a positive work culture, career growth opportunities can definitely entice these qualified candidates to choose your offer over the other ones that they're receiving. It has to be deep and robust, right? Most companies today offer some sort of retirement plan. Almost every organization offers medical benefits in some way. But monetary bonuses and great work culture, these are all things too that candidates are looking for. And so what does that mean really, right? What does a good benefits package really mean? Are you offering 100% employer paid benefits? Is there a robust wellness plan like a gym membership, discounts on health supplements, incentives for your employees maybe seeking mental health or seeking a great work-life balance? What specifically makes your workplace culture great? That is all about the employer branding piece. And so when you think about the generations in the workplace, it's time to think about the four different generations that we have. For the first time in history, we have generation the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Gen Zers all finding their way in the workplace for the first time in history. And with millennials and Gen Z being the biggest workforce that's coming up, each generation values different aspects of work and what they find important to them. For example, having video games and ping pong in the break room won't necessarily increase workplace culture if there's a culture of micromanagement or maybe a culture of disrespect for management to the employees. Gen Z and millennials are becoming the largest workforce and will be heavily relied upon in the next 20 years of the US economy, especially as we move into the automation phase of our economy. And they are very vocal about avoiding toxic managers or toxic workplace cultures, maybe organizations that pressure KPIs over everything else, maybe managers who have unrealistic expectations and do not necessarily practice the best professionalism and respect when communicating to their employees. And so this is something to take very seriously. It's not something that's talked about quite a bit. I know a lot of companies are focused on improving their workplace culture, but they're not really getting down to the nuts and bolts of things, right? And so websites exist like glassdoor.com where current and former employees are able to share their workplace reviews and their experience working at a company. And great candidates are going to check this website out. They're going to go and they're going to read the reviews before accepting any offer or deciding to apply at any job at a company. So this is something that every organization has to be aware of, right? Next slide, please. And before we take a look at the labor market trends, I really want to continue talking about the current state of the labor market. So again, when we're talking about partnering with a staffing organization, partnering with a staffing organization like Procom, it's really essential to view us as partners rather than burdens or replacements for your internal staff. We have no intentions to do that whatsoever. Staffing agencies are here to support your internal recruitment teams. If you don't have a recruitment team, we can act as that recruitment team for you. And so collaboration and communication are going to be the keys to success in any partnership. And it's very important, to establish a strong working relationship. So that way we can foster open dialogue and we can align our goals to make sure that we're able to help you achieve your goals specifically. And so we're strategic partners in your success, and you can leverage us and our expertise, as subject matter experts in talent acquisition, and that could reduce your time to hire as well as your cost per hire significantly, especially because we work on a contingent basis. You don't pay us until placement, right? So you're saving a ton of man hours, money, and you're being more efficient by leveraging, a company like Procom and myself, developing a customized approach in your talent acquisition process. So that's where the collaboration is going to come in. And that collaboration should extend within your organization as well, involving the hiring managers, your internal recruiters, and other stakeholders in the process. That's going to be vital for us to be successful for you. And so clear, efficient communication throughout the recruitment process, regular candidate feedback sessions, and detailed feedback on candidate interviews really helps us and yourself build on that continuous improvement to ensure that all the parties are on the same page. Most of us are beholden to KPIs of some sort, as well as important deadlines. And so we all want to ensure that the candidates that are being presented for the jobs have an equally pleasurable experience, because again, that increases your employer branding. Something that's just not talked about right now is what are the candidates saying about your company, whether in person, out loud, amongst their friends and family, or online, right? We all know that in today's society, we look at Amazon, we're looking at Amazon reviews before we even buy. So that's how people are making their decisions right now. They're seeking reviews and confirmation and references and things like that in order to say, okay, yeah, I want to make this decision. So when we talk about embracing agility and leveraging technology and automations and fostering an effective and collaborative work environment, these are all crucial elements for the success in today's competitive job market. And so as long as we're able to recognize the importance of people being your company's competitive advantage, the flesh and blood human being sitting behind that desk, you can attract and retain the best talent and ensure their long-term success. So when we take a look at the current labor market trends, the current state of the labor market is tricky because so many things have changed since 2020, like I mentioned before. Candidates are now preferring remote, while employers, maybe even yourself on this call, you're requiring employees to come back into the office, right? So there's definitely been a disconnect in the last 3 years of qualified candidates realizing, hey, I don't necessarily have to go into the office. I can save a lot of time by working remote. And then companies saying, hey, we've invested millions of dollars into this commercial real estate space. We need to get a return on that investment. So it's time to start bringing employees back into the office. You're starting to see a lot of the larger Fortune 500 brands doing that. But because there's more jobs open than there are candidates, like I mentioned before, it's definitely a candidate's market. So they have been spending time increasing their skill sets, getting additional certifications, so that way they can leverage accessing jobs that are around the world right now that allow them to work remotely. So a company in Germany can now hire somebody in Florida to do software development or something like that. And companies are really starting to pick up on this, right? And so we're going to dive into some key trends on talent shortages, job market competitiveness, as well as the changing candidate expectations. So that way you have a really good idea of what the landscape looks like right now and be better prepared for it. Right now, like I mentioned, the labor market's in constant state of evolution. It's shaped by various trends. One of the most significant trends that I've seen in my experience right now is just the talent shortage. You know, we're seeing right now unemployment rate is at 3.7%. In IT specifically, it's 2%, which is up from 1.5% back in January of this year. So thinking about that, right? January 2023, the IT unemployment rate was 1.5%. There's so many jobs that are open right now, right? That means that great candidates, they're going to be working at your competitors. Available candidates are going to have multiple job offers, right? So how can we get your company in the forefront, in their minds, in their psyche, to where they fall in love with your job offer and your organization and are ready to come to work? You know, this is something that's really been outside of our control for a while, but the talent shortage has reached critical levels, with estimated 45% of employers that I speak with say that they're struggling to fill their open positions, right? The job market is evident of this. 68% of job seekers are considering multiple job offers simultaneously. 68%, that's a huge number. That's what's been reported by Glassdoor.com. So nearly 70% of job seekers have more than one job offer to consider, right? And so as the labor market evolves, so do candidate expectations. You know, job seekers have different priorities. They have different expectations to the previous generations, like we touched on prior. You know, baby boomers and Gen Xers, they have different expectations of the workplace than millennials do, and definitely more than Gen Zers. For those of us on the webinar that may have a Gen Zer child or nephew or something like that, or relative, you see they're a little bit of a different generation. So we have to be conscious of this, because in the next 20 years, they are going to be the workforce, and they're just not going to be doing things the way that previous generations have done it. That's just not in their DNA. And so a recent LinkedIn study showed that 75% of candidates consider employer branding and employer reputation before applying for the job. This goes back to what I mentioned on the previous slide about employer branding, why that's so important, and why having a strong staffing agency partner who understands employer branding and also understands on how to create a program that leverages your brand in the candidate market is extremely vital in today's times. Career Builder says that 91% of candidates believe that a company's online presence is crucial when considering a job opportunity. So again, going back to what I mentioned before, Glassdoor reviews just being one piece of the puzzle. Another is obviously how your company is represented on its website, maybe things that you're doing in the community for community involvement. Is your brand noticeable? Do you have, you know, a product that's featured in major retail outlets? You know, these are all things that you can leverage in building your employer brand. The digital transformation has really revolutionized the recruitment space, because not only does it provide new opportunities and challenges, but it also reshapes how, you know, your company is going to source, assess, and engage with your candidates, right? HR technologists, they report that the adoption of AI-powered recruitment tools has definitely increased by 59% over the last 2 years. And we're starting to see that with the power of ChatGPT and what it can do. So hopefully everyone has heard of ChatGPT and had an opportunity to check it out and use it and see the true power of even the limited free edition. You know, if you're paying for ChatGPT, it comes with some more enhanced capabilities, things like that. So it's really important to think about that. And so next slide, please. Virtual interviews have gained in popularity. 78% increase in the usage of virtual tools during the past year, obviously because of the pandemic. You know, all of us working from home or being trapped at home. Nearly 80% increase in the usage of virtual interview tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, such as GoToMeeting, things like that. And so this is helping companies because you can conduct multiple interviews within a week, with candidates and make a decision within 10 days of that role being open and a candidate identified. And this is happening right now with my clients here at Procom. We've been successful in filling a role within 5 days of the job being received. So we've done that on numerous occasions, me personally, as well as testimonies from our team and from our large clients who have been so gracious to share those testimonials with us. By putting a solid plan in place, we've been able to make those hires on a consistent basis within 10 days of the role being open, due to the strength and power of our process. And so from the many years of candidate feedback that we've collected, nearly 50 years of candidate feedback, particularly in the IT space, someone that goes through 5 in-person interviews isn't, that process is just not ideal anymore, right? And it can actually turn off a good candidate. So the perfect way would be to streamline this process through the usage of virtual tools, group interviews, and a dedicated process. Deloitte reports that robotic process automation, also known as RPA, it's got some significant potential. 62% of organizations that talked to Deloitte said that they're already using or planning on adopting RPA to automate repetitive recruitment tasks. And so some companies have even instituted AI chatbots to do the candidate pre-screens, and these are becoming a vital tool in the candidate engagement process, which has resulted in that significant increase in usage, because clients are starting to see that being able to reduce time by having an automated process just to screen out candidates, that saves a ton of time, not just for the recruiters, but for the hiring managers as well. Not speaking with unqualified candidates or not having their inbox flooded with resumes that simply just don't even match the job description. And I know for all of us on the call that are in recruiting, we've experienced that, right? Candidates applying to jobs that they just don't even come close to what the job description says, and it's frustrating. So these AI tools and digital transformation in the recruitment space, that's very good for what we're trying to do. And so the labor market is definitely experiencing these talent shortages due to the heightened competition. And so embracing these technologies, you can definitely streamline your recruitment process. Just remember that the recruitment landscape will continue to evolve. It's never going to stop. So staying up to date, with the latest trends, and being able to, leverage an innovative technology like this is going to be crucial for the success of your organization and filling those positions. Next slide. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about hiring mid to senior level tech candidates in 10 days or less, like I mentioned. And so as you can see here, we're going to talk briefly on the challenge of hiring those top tech talents. We're going to discuss some strategies for expedited hiring, as well as explore employer branding and the candidate experience. We're going to touch a little bit more on that, like I mentioned, because that really is the nuts and bolts of it. How does your company measure up against your competition? And so after the call, if we're able to connect, I definitely look forward to sending you guys a copy of the 2023 Voice of Talent State of the Workforce Report. Procom does this every single year. We collect comprehensive information from all of our candidates that we've placed, as well as comprehensive qualitative data from our clients that we serviced from the prior year. We put together a really good PDF document that you can review to get an idea of what candidates are saying in the 2023 workforce landscape. And so this idea of recruiting mid to senior level tech candidates in this competitive market and the high demand and low supply of these skilled professionals, that is the biggest challenge that we're focusing right now, right? So even if your company is a small or mid-sized organization like we discussed, some of these strategies that you can implement right away not only are going to be cost effective at even the base level, but they're going to be extremely efficient for your hiring managers, and they're going to love you, because as soon as the position comes open, they know they've got candidates in play and they can fill that position within a week. If we can give you that type of strength and power in your process, that's the name of the game, right? And so some of these challenges, really are going to be outside of your control, because at the end of the day, the candidate has to make the decision, right? The candidate has to leverage your offer and say, okay, what's going to be best, right? And so the old saying, some of the best advice I heard in my career is control what you can control. we can establish a very dedicated and streamlined process that's super efficient and get that candidate all the way from pre-screen to final interview and offer stage, within 10 days, right? But at the end of the day, the candidate is going to have to make that decision. And so my role here at Procom is to help ensure that we make sure that the candidate feels that your position is the number one choice, and we can close that candidate for you. And so hiring tech talent, particularly in that mid to senior level space, candidates that have these proper certifications and the experience, it's very, 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 very small pool here in the USA. And so the skills gap is growing, which, like I mentioned before, the last 20 years, these jobs that exist today, they didn't exist 20 years ago. So there's a huge skills gap right now in the United States. And that's resulted in companies outsourcing their IT staffing, even at the risk of bad press, right? Bad press, bad, things like bad news reports and stuff like that. It's all because companies are desperate for talent, and they really do want to get those positions filled because they have deadlines to meet. But with the skills gap that's going on right now in the United States, it's very difficult, right? So they've got to import talent from countries like China, India, Nigeria, places like that, because those countries are focusing on building those skill sets. But at the end of the day, we're not out of the game just yet. And so some of the strategies that we can implement for hiring, expedited hiring process, we touched on before. It is going to boil down to whether we have dedicated interview times, dedicated interview feedback times, as well as, hiring managers and employers that are invested into making sure that we're able to get an offer out and a start date confirmed right away. Because that, going back to what I mentioned, that candidate is, they're looking at 2 or 3 different job offers, right? And so to me, in my opinion and my expertise, that employer branding piece is going to be the most important. That last column that you see there, employee branding and the candidate experience. And so what exactly does that look like, right? So employer branding specifically, your company brand is your calling card. Your employer brand holds immense importance in both the contemporary and historical sense, right? So in contemporary context, with the rise of social media and online platforms, strong employer brand has become essential for attracting and retaining that top talent. So, it's the why and why a candidate should accept your offer. Candidates today actively seek information about employers. And so, historically, when you think about Coca-Cola, Nike, General Motors, Ford Motor Company, things like that, those are huge brands that people have grown up with. They want to work at these companies. They want to have that on their resume. And in today's times, we have Amazon, Tesla, Facebook, these huge companies that people want to work at. So a positive employer brand can attract skilled workers. You're going to ensure that you gain a loyal workforce, as well as achieve a competitive advantage in your markets, which is what I touched on earlier. So how do you showcase your company culture? Did you know that 86% of IT professionals consider company culture the critical factor in choosing a job? I did mention that before, but that's close to 90%. So we're going to generalize and pretty much say that everyone is looking at company culture as a critical factor. And so another way would be to prompt professional development opportunities. Are you offering paid trainings? Are you offering paid certifications, career advancement opportunities? What does your competitive compensation package look like? Like I mentioned before, do you have those robust things in your compensation? Are your salaries within market? I use Lightcast as data when I consult my clients to show what is available in their market for the positions they're hiring for, as well as give insight on baseline salary statistics and showing you what your competitors are doing. So competitors that have the same exact job opening that you have, I'm able to show you not only how many job openings they have, what they're paying, things like that. So that will give you a very good leg up over your competition. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about the benefits really quickly of skills-based hiring. We're going to touch on some testing and assessments and things like that. And so one of the advantages of skills-based hiring is being able to have the specific skill sets in the role that you're looking to fill. So testing, assessments, things like that are very important. And SHRM backs this up by their recent study saying that employees that are hired based on skills and assessments, they exceed the qualifications by 21%. So it's definitely effective, to ensure effective methods through assessments, technical tests. Companies that use technical tests experience a 36% increase in successful hires. Different coding challenges, having coding tests, technical tests, as well as personality and behavioral assessments. This all helps streamline the process. Behavioral interviews were all the rage in the 2000s and 2010s, but according to SHRM, 55% increase in employee longevity, meaning they're staying at the company 55% longer when they're able to use some sort of assessment to be able to determine whether the person's going to be a right fit for the role. And so, when we talk about mitigating these different challenges throughout, we touched on some really, really good pieces, from assessing skills effectively, diversity and inclusion in hiring. Companies that have a diverse work environment are more successful, not only in driving revenue, but increasing their employer brand. You can tell I'm talking a lot about employer brand because it's just so important. And diversity and inclusion in your hiring is definitely that. Going back to the Gen Z comments that I was making, Gen Z and millennials, they want to see reflection in the workplace. They want to see people in successful positions that look like them or potentially identify with them. And so how is your organization effectively approaching diversity and inclusion in your hiring? And is it part of your overall employer brand? Those are really the key components that we're looking for. And so I know we're running close on time. I covered a lot of information. Hopefully you guys got some really good value out of it. So if we can go to the next slide, I think we're going to open it up just for a couple of quick questions really fast, and then we'll close things out. So it looks like we got a question here. What specific resources does Procom have that is different from other staffing agencies? Well, of course, me, right? You would definitely want to work with me. Just kidding, all jokes aside, but Procom is different for a number of reasons. We have a dedicated recruitment process that's second to none in our industry, but client relationships are really important to us. In addition to our company values, subject matter expertise, client relationships, they're all really great, but we do believe in our core values of open communication, rethinking the status quo, and doing the right thing. And this ensures that everybody matters, so that way we're being obsessed with helping our customers succeed. And so with that, I'll go ahead and close things up. That looks like that's the only question that we had time for. And in conclusion, definitely looking forward to continuing this conversation, although it was short, but just helping you guys understand that we need to develop be able to articulate compelling reasons for why the employee should come work for your organization, analyze your competition to see what they're doing so that way you can either match them or get a leg up, being able to embrace remote work as much as possible to be able to provide that flexibility for your top candidates and your most successful employees, as well as ensuring that they stay in the organization and you get the return on that investment by providing a comprehensive compensation package. And so I can help you design and implement these key strategies, and at the very least fill your urgent open job positions. And I hope you found this webinar to be insightful and helpful, and I definitely look forward to connecting with all of you guys offline. You can email me at cal.price@procomservices.com. You can call my office at 346-439-0625, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn anytime. So let's work together. I definitely look forward to working with you guys and hopefully showcasing your brand out to the amazing candidates that we've been speaking to on a daily basis. And for those of you that have got value out of this, I definitely look forward to working with you in the future. And I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon, and good luck to everybody on here as we strive and move forward into the rest of 2023.